when you're a rebel or disruptor, I found that your following is cult-like. The people who adore you to they'll go to any ends to defend your name and the things that you do. So it's a really interesting way to build a very loyal and huge following. Hey guys, welcome to Entrepreneur HR, a podcast where we dive into the hardly discussed but deeply necessary parts of running your own business. My name is Toks and I am your EHR specialist. And on this episode of EHR 101, we're going to be discussing positioning. I'm going to be sharing 7 different archetypes of how you could position yourself within your business. And the first one I'm going to discuss is the kingmaker. The kingmaker is different from the king because they have the king's ear, but they don't necessarily have the king's public presence. So think of a producer in a music video. You hear their beat, you know that they're there and they must exist, but you never actually get to see them. And the positioning of the kingmaker can be beneficial if you are working as somebody who supports other people. So this could be, let's say, in government, like a government consultant, for example, who is working along government officials, but you're not actually within the government, or somebody who just does advisory and consulting. So your opinions matter, your subject matter expertise is there, but when it comes to the credit, you don't necessarily get that credit because people don't actually know that you're there. And this can be a good or bad thing depending on where you lie. I know quite a few people who do work where they sign NDAs. So when it comes to their work being presented, people are giving credit to other people. So this can be someone like a ghostwriter. And they're absolutely fine with it because they love the work but don't necessarily care for the credit. So if you're someone who wants to live a successful but inconspicuous life, positioning yourself as a kingmaker could really do that for you because you get the ear of the king, but you don't get the attention of the king. So you get to separate the two. And on the other side, some people are not the biggest fan of this because they want their name to be attached to the work they do so that they can get the credit. And as I said, neither is bad or good. You just need to decide where you want to be. And one thing that I've noticed a lot is that over time, because nobody stays on top forever, people who were once kings transition into the kingmaker position later on in their careers as they've amassed enough information through their experiences to be able to help those coming behind them. It only makes sense that the second positioning would be the king, the star girl, the face of the brand. And this is great, right? Because you are attached to your brand. When people see you, they see the stuff you do. For example, I would say I fall somewhere within this line for a lot of my work, but some of my consulting work falls within the kingmaker because when people see me, my name is Toks, but my social media is Toks Talks. So I've had people come up to me and be like, "Hi, you're Toks Talks," right? I'm like, "I'm Toks, but yes." And it's fun, right? Because you get to be tightly attached to the work you do. But I would say the con of being a king is that you're tightly attached to the work you do. Just like that astronomer CEO that we saw, that whole U2 situation, the infidelity situation, because his face is the brand, is attached to the work he did, his humanity outside of work hours can still stain the work that he's building. So when you realize that you are the face of the brand, you actually in some ways don't get days off. And that can be a lot of pressure because everything you do, everything you say is attached to how people relate to your brand because some people don't even necessarily like your brand in and of itself. They like you, and because they like you is why they came to your brand. So should you shift their perspective of how they see you, how you engage through the things you say, the things you do, the things you don't do, because that can also be a thing, that can move you from that king position to really falling down. Another position you can take is the position of the builder. Similar to the kingmaker, but not quite, because you're not necessarily advising, but you have created a product. For example, Spanx. Yes, Sarah's personality is out there, but there are many products that have been created that we use every single day that we don't actually know the people who created them. And If that's what you want to do, that's cool as well, right? And I think that that often works better for product-based businesses than service-based businesses because when you're providing a service, chances are that you are providing it yourself. And as a builder, you're in the back end. You're usually that person who likes due diligence planning, who likes to put their head down and just do the work until it's done. And instead of you being the shining light, the product that you create ends up going out into the world. And the success of the product is something that you feel as a personal success of yourself, even if your identity is not attached to that actual thing that you've created. The fourth archetype is something I like to call the plug. And the plug is a person who people know they can get access to other people through. So this doesn't necessarily put you in a place of knowing something. It puts you in a place of knowing someone or a bunch of someones. So you know that friend of yours who always knows a guy? Like when you need something fixed, you need HVAC, and they're like, oh, I have a guy, and they send you over the number. That person is the plug. So the plug is the conduit. Should you need something, they're the person who connects person A with person B, but they're that middle dash in between the two. And this holds a lot of power. And the way that this works is that usually that person has immense social capital that they've built throughout the years through traveling, through meeting people, through making a good impression and garnering so much trust that now if somebody is asking for something, they know that they're the go-to person who within 2 degrees of separation will get them connected to it. And the pros of this is that you hold a lot of power, right? Social capital can be converted into true capital. And as a conduit or a plug, you can literally build a business out of being the connector that should a business need government contacts and you have it, they come to you, they pay you a fee, and then you connect them with those people. But at the same time, being the plug can put you in a spot of only knowing the people but not knowing the stuff. And if you're somebody who also knows the stuff, this can be really difficult to deal with because people go through you, but they don't necessarily go to you. So if that's the case and you're a conduit who is also someone who knows the stuff, which is the next one we'll talk about, which is an SME, then you have to find a way to merge the two. So the fifth positioning archetype is the subject matter expert, which similarly to the conduit, people come to you, but instead of going through you, they stay with you because you are known as the knower of something. And when you're a subject matter expert, it can be easy to position yourself because you have brought yourself into such a deep niche that when people think of your name, they think of that thing. So you become synonymous with a certain reputation that then makes it easy for people to book you, to hire you, to consider you for any opportunity because they know what you're good at. And the best way to merge being a conduit with a subject matter expert is to show off both when necessary. So with this podcast, this first season is just me, but the subsequent seasons are going to be interview style podcasts where I'm going to bring different people in and we're going to discuss HR topics. If I had started with just interviewing a bunch of people, chances are I would be positioning myself as a plug. Toks knows people. Toks can get a lot of the interesting people to have intimate conversations with her, which is absolutely necessary and true because that is one of my gifts. But at the same time, I want to be known as someone who can also be hired to do the work through like root work or anything else that I've discussed here. And positioning this podcast in a way where the first season is all me sharing knowledge on entrepreneurship, calling myself the HR specialist. I've positioned myself as a subject matter expert in this space while eventually leading you all into the interview series, which will be me showing that I'm a conduit and a plug. So there is a way to do both. And in different stages or in different situations, one opportunity might be better than the other, but making sure that you're positioning yourself in the necessary archetype when it's needed is how you're going to ensure that you don't get pigeonholed into one when you can kind of drift through all of them. The sixth positioning archetype is the educator slash mentor. And this is that person who you go to for sound advice and wisdom. So literally a mentor, literally an educator, or someone who just positions themselves as the person who teaches you information. So on social media, that person who's always giving sound advice and it always sounds like they're speaking exactly to your current situation, this person would be in that position. And the difference between being a mentor slash educator versus a subject matter expert is that educators don't necessarily have to like master and be an expert in that thing. So an educator or a mentor can offer more topical types of analysis that can relate to many different people. But when someone's a subject matter expert, it's like that person can write a book on that piece of information versus a mentor could read the book and share insights that are very, very deep, but might not necessarily be able to write the book themselves. Both are necessary, both are needed, and both can be combined, right? Because I remember back in school, sometimes we would have brilliant, brilliant professors, but we're like, you're really good at studying and you know the stuff, but you're not that good at teaching the stuff, right? So being able to do both could be a cool positioning, but maybe you're a subject matter expert, or maybe you're a mentor educator and they don't mix, and all of it is still useful and very, very necessary. The seventh and final positioning archetype is the rebel slash disruptor. I'm not even going to name names of the type of people these are, but I'm sure if you think about it, these are the individuals who will say the most dramatic things that will have you clutching your pearls and so confused. They will say the thing that nobody else wants to say, nobody else should say. They are professional devil's advocates, and that's what they make their living off of. The discourse around them is extremely polarizing. They shake things up. They shake up our perspective of how we view the world or how we view situations. And the pro of this is that when you're a rebel or disruptor, I found that your following is cult like. The people who adore you to they'll go to any ends to defend your name and the things that you do. So it's a really interesting way to build a very loyal and huge following. But I would say that the con of that is that the people who are not for you in the same way, right? Like once somebody is too polarizing, you have to pick a side, and chances are it takes a lot to shift sides. So if you're somebody who wants to just shake every single table and flip it over, being a rebel or disruptor could work. But if you're not okay with people being fond of you, maybe this is not the best path to take. There are other ways to share your opinion and not be so black or white about it that could still make you disrupt the status quo, but without amassing a lot of people who aren't a fan of what you do and potentially who you are, because the brand is the person a lot of times. So, with all seven of these archetypes, one thing that it's important to know is that reputation matters for every single one of them. Even if nobody sees your face, the people who hire you know you exist. So, maintaining your reputation and being quote unquote likable to the people who are going to hire you is a really important thing to consider. Don't just think that I'm going to be a kingmaker and no one's going to know who I am, so I'm going to be insufferable and it's going to be fine. Or I'm going to be a rebel who doesn't care about anyone and it's going to be fine. Being likable and maintaining a reputation with integrity is important, because once your integrity is gone, usually everything else starts falling down with it. So maintain the integrity, keep your reputation, and stay likable and relatable to those who you are determined to serve. So I'd love to know where you see yourself within these archetypes. Do you think you touch all seven, or do you really live in one or two? Share it in the comments and we can discuss further. And I'll speak to you again really soon. Bye.